Let me get back to the issue, however, of black conservatives. And I've touched on this subject on many, many occasions, and I'm going to touch on it now, but never before have I touched on this subject the way that I'm going to right now. There's a lot of times it could be a Candace Owens. It could be a Larry Elder. To a lesser degree, it could be a Byron Donald. I remember Armstrong Williams. He's been out there for many, many years. I've known him for many, many years. Even to a lesser degree, somebody like Sage Steele, who used to work at ESPN and now, helped the Trump campaign. And who knows, for all we know, I don't think she's interested in it, but who knows? She might end up being press secretary one day. I don't know. Whatever it is, I hope she does well. I wish her well. Sage and I got along. Let me say this. Over the years, we've seen a level of vitriol emanating from black conservatives to a point where people who are not conservative vilified them because of it. I was never down with that. I'm a registered independent who primarily votes Democrat. There have been several occasions I've been tempted to vote Republican, to vote conservative. Hell, some of the times I regretted I didn't. And who knows what the future holds with me with some of the nonsense that I saw from the left, particularly leading up to this election with woke and cancel culture and all of that stuff. But that's a different story for another day. Here's the point that I want to make. While finding myself wishing that the inordinate amount of black conservatives that have been out there and are still out there will sort of dial back their vitriolic responses to the venom that's been thrown in their direction, I've rarely blamed them. Because you got people in here looking at folks from the conservative side who happen to be black, calling them sellouts and coons and all of these kind of negative connotations, showing them no respect as human beings just because you don't agree and side with their ideology. Who the hell are you? Listen, most of my friends are liberal. Some of them are conservatives. I have no problem with any of them. All I want to hear is what your point of view is and why. And if you make sense and it's fact-based and it's not dominated by emotion trying to usurp the facts, I'm good with you. Even if I don't agree with you, because I know your position is based on fact. And for folks outside of the conservative community to look at people who are black and excoriate them just because they're conservative, who the hell are you? Where are your facts? There's a lot of history that goes into stuff. You can see it one way or another, but it's undeniable that bipartisanship played the role. Civil rights legislation, voting rights legislation, affirmative action, and things of that nature. Conservatives did play a role in some good things that happened in our society. The left and Democrats have been hypocritical in certain respects. So if we're going to call balls and strikes, call balls and strikes. But we didn't do that. And we never do that when that comes to black conservatives. And don't use this as an opportunity to say, Stephen A., oh, he's a conservative. Well, damn it, I'm not yet, but I might be one day because I don't like the shit I've been seeing. But my voting record says otherwise. This is not about that. This is about us being grown-ups and being respectful of other people's positions and feelings and taking a moment to inhale and digest what the hell they're saying and deciphering what's true and what isn't true before we take a position. It's important that we do that. But we haven't been doing that. And then we wonder why black people in this country are the one disenfranchised community that exists in this country. You know why? Because we don't demand that you flatter us. Let me explain my position even further. If you go to buy a house, do you buy it without looking at it, walking through it, probing and investigating before you decide to make that investment? Do you do something like that with a car as well? Don't you do it with clothes? Don't you do it with any purchase that you get? But when it comes to politics, no such thing. So in other words, the vast majority of black Americans in this country, particularly since 1964, have basically said, the right, you know what? You ain't worth a damn. We don't like you. We don't trust you. So guess what? We ain't giving you our vote. We can't come together for shit under most circumstances. But suddenly with politics, 85, 90%, etc., oh, we gonna roll with the left. So what you've done is you've disenfranchised yourself. Why? Because the left know they have your vote and you're not going anywhere, and boom, you don't have to cater to African American needs. And on the right, you're like, we ain't getting their vote anyway, so let's pay attention to the constituent that's gonna put us in office. Either way you slice it, this one gives you little representation because they're taking you for granted. This one gives you little representation and no representation because they know they don't have your support anyway. And why are the other communities successful? Because I don't give a damn whether it's Cuban, it's Dominican, it's Venezuelan, it's Guatemalan, it's Puerto Rican, it's Mexican. I don't care what it is. You're Asian. You're the Jewish community. An abundance of white folks in the United States of America. Somehow, some way, everybody successfully goes about the business of making sure they tell you, show us you're worthy of our vote before we give it to you. And as a result, you have to cater to them. We don't do that. We don't do that. And that's where we made a mistake. And even though black conservatives may not do that to the degree that we like, in the end, what they're doing is they're bucking the system. They're saying we're not going to just buy what you're selling. The other side might have more of what we want. And some of them did that in this election with Trump. And now the Democrats have to go back to the drawing board and figure out, how can you appeal to more African Americans and more folks in the Hispanic community and beyond to regain the luster that you thought you had, but you evidently lost? In other words, ladies and gentlemen, even when things look bad, there's light at the end of the rainbow. You know what that light is? Believe it or not, Donald Trump winning the election because it forced everybody to stand up and pay attention and recognize that you no longer get to engage in hate-mongering and fear-mongering to win an election. You actually got to go out there and win it. Black conservatives have something to do with that. So they ain't gonna get hatred from me. And they shouldn't from you or anybody in the African American community. Enough with the childishness. Let's grow up and use our mind and our brains far, far more than our emotions.